Haven't done both. Both Odyssey and Seton Hill. I got my MA in writing popular fiction from Seton Hill University in Greensburg, and um, the 1 week residence. It was a distance education program, so we go for a week in January and a week in June, and for two and a half years, and we do in-person critique during our residencies, and then we had our own. We were assigned critique groups for the rest of the year that we critique each month, our critique partners. But because we were working on full-length novels, our critiques were very different. And I learned through those critiques that often when someone would say, sorry, I just forgot your name and I have to look here. Nicole, is that it?
Yep, you got it.
Nicole, sorry. Nicola, what you were saying, those explanation tumors, when people say, oh, you need to explain this, it's because they're not getting what I'm trying to say. Because I'm not, as the author, I'm not being clear enough. In the novel that I was doing for my MA program, I remember everybody saying, oh, that you have to explain why this character is this way, and why am I cheering for the what's supposed to be the antagonist and not the protagonist. And, they kept wanting me to change things, and I was like, but that's not going to work for the story, until I stepped back and I realized, because what they're saying is they're not getting what I'm not putting clearly on the page what my vision for the story is. And so once I started doing that, things got a lot better in the critiques. But I find that all of the time in the critiques, because, you get it, you're submitting stories or novels just at a certain point where you're wanting to know if you're being clear in what you're saying. And as soon as they start saying, well, you need to explain this, you're thinking, but it's right, because I'm not being clear enough. And it's an experiential thing where you have to start reading between the lines of what they're critiquing. And unless it's pointing out a typo in those line edits, often it has to do with how I've written something.
Yeah, what's interesting? It's like you need to be very clear as a writer, and so I have this. I think most of us, we tend to blame ourselves. If we get a bad critique from a group and everyone just kind of jumps on it and goes, I didn't get this story, I don't like it. If we're a responsible writer, we tend to say, oh, crap, I did not do my job as a writer here. I need to go back and edit it. But I recently had a kind of weird revelation. I'm not sure if it's true or not. That so I've had this one thing where I kept getting very, very varied feedback. Somebody would tell me to do X, and then the next person would tell me to do Y, and I was getting really frustrated because I got hundreds of opinions, maybe not hundreds, but like 50 opinions, and they were all different. And and so I finally kind of realized that the problem actually wasn't me in that case. The problem was that people came in with certain expectations about those characters, and I wasn't meeting those expectations. My story wasn't meeting those expectations, and so people kind of had these assumptions they were making, and when the characters didn't meet those assumptions, they were like, I don't get it, something's wrong. And anyway, so I kind of yes, it's something that I had to address, but it was very interesting because I was like, this wasn't a clarity problem. It was people go in with these expectations that I actually didn't have and didn't consider.
Yeah, I think Sherry and Abby, you both bring up the point that was real important to me. It's how you listen to a critique, how you take a critique. I approach a critique a certain way, a very particular way. I have in my mind, after I turn in a story, I have in my mind what I wanted to accomplish with that story. I know what I'm trying to get across, and so when I am listening to the critiques and reading the critiques, what I am listening for and reading for is seeing how well I came across, seeing how accurately, how did the reader pick up on everything that I was going for? What were the things the reader missed that I was trying to get across? And that's a special kind of listening. It's not necessarily listening to or trying to incorporate a specific suggestion. It's listening to and trying to figure out, okay, Abby, you're talking about that whole question of expectation. So there's what your expectation is as the writer, and then there's the reader's expectation, and you are trying to get across your vision. Not necessarily the reader's vision, your vision. So it's a matter of measuring how successful you were at that. So there was some author who had said that if a room full of people tell you that something's wrong with the story, they're probably right. If they tell you how to fix it, they're probably wrong.
Yes.
I don't know who said that, but I think that's brilliant.
And I've heard the first part of that before. I hadn't heard the second part.
There you go.
Yeah, I would say, like, first and foremost, I listen to what their general reactions are. Like if people are generally saying, this story was really, really great, you don't have to change much, but here's a few little things, I take that as a good sign. If everyone is saying, I didn't get this, then, gotta go back and rework that story at some point. I mean, but, yeah, it's like, getting down to the nitty-gritty things, like, sometimes people go off the wall. I mean, sometimes an individual will give you some very strange comments. Like, I had one critiquer that kept mixing up the names of my characters.
No.
Very strange.
That was useful.
Right. Well, and I think, this is the value of having multiple critiquers, right? Is that like we just mentioned a few minutes ago, if you have consistent feedback that this doesn't work, and you have, a group of people who independently read the story, independently came up with the critique, and they're all telling you the same thing, then, that's definitely feedback to take in. If you have one person saying, I love this story, and another person saying, I don't get it, what you may not have is, what you may have a successful story that happens to just be polarizing, as a lot of good fiction is polarizing. For example, if you look at, great pieces of work, critically acclaimed kinds of work, if you look at it on Amazon, you're going to find that it has 1- and 2-star reviews, and it has 5-star reviews, and it sometimes it is polarizing, and that's because it has a certain amount of I want to say passion attached to it. That it triggers a reaction in people, and even if it's a reaction where people can't stand it, it's a reaction, and people have a strong feeling about it. Now, that's different if it's a critique about technical aspects of the work. That's one thing. But if it's overall, I didn't get this or I did get this, then it could be a matter of audience. It could be that there's, especially if you're getting that mixed feedback.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I had like one critique group where just one person in the group absolutely hated my work to the point where she like threw a fit about it.
Wow.
So yeah, but it was really interesting because that kind of it kind of shocked me. I was like, oh my, I had no idea somebody would hate my work that much. And so somebody else was telling me, well, I really loved your work, and the fact that she's that passionate about it kind of says something. It says that you really inspired her to go off on a huge rant.
Look at it this way, Abby, you're not boring.
Yeah.
Right. Take a look at any author that you love, whoever it is that you love. Go to Amazon, go to their best known book, and look at the 1-star reviews. And I think and sometimes they're idiotic. Sometimes the 1-star reviews are the Kindle wasn't formatted correctly, and therefore I'm giving it a 1-star review. But oftentimes you have people who are saying, I can't understand why this book is so popular. I did that recently with Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House, which happens to be one of my favorite books now after I just finished reading it, and it's just very powerful. And it was interesting. There were a bunch of people who read the book after the 1999 film version, and their reviews are still on Amazon, and you can read them, and they're like, you can just tell they didn't get the book. And that doesn't mean that Shirley Jackson failed necessarily. It's just that they weren't the right readers for that book, and that there's another audience of people who were much more able to kind of absorb what Shirley Jackson was saying, that got it and it worked for them.
Yeah, another good example of that is the whole Thomas Covenant series by Stephen Donaldson. I mean, everyone brings that one up. I know. I didn't mean to bring it up, but yes, that's like the classic example that polarizes readers. I mean, it's like you get half the people that just love it and defend it with their lives, and then half the other people just hate it and want to burn it.